recent years, leading actresses have used their opportunity at the microphone at the Academy Awards to press their industry peers and influencers to adopt strategies that will help to disrupt our often lethargic approaches to dealing with diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. In 2019, Best Supporting Actress Regina King, winner for If Beale Street Could Talk, promised viewers that within the next 2 years, she would work diligently to ensure that each project she touches moving forward has actual gender parity. 50% women hired across the board. And in 2018, Best Actress winner Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, she spoke of a very specific tool that she encouraged her actor friends to utilize, an inclusion rider, which can in some ways help us to think about how to reframe the work that we need to do. So what is an inclusion rider, and how can it help us as everyday citizens change the world and create radical diversity, equity, and inclusion? So that's me. Me again. Still me. So, as you can see, I have spent my entire life as a performing artist, event producer, and manager, and so I know a few things about writers. So let me share with you what I have. Performing artists, actors, musicians, they're used to putting provisions within their contracts that reflect their desires, be it for chewy, not crunchy granola bars, or for the particular types of hotel accommodations that they would like during their stay. These artists place these demands, and they're often met to the letter by those seeking to hire them. Now, in an inclusion rider, favorite foods are replaced with minimum requirements for hiring of local crews, production staff, supporting performers, and more. These women are using and setting standards and expectations to help create the world of work as it should be. So I first considered how I might utilize a similar concept for myself in declaring openly and with confidence what are the terms that I need in order to continue to live the work that I love. And I thought of that after seeing the terms of engagement for researcher, speaker, author, Dr. Jason Fox of Australia. Now, according to his many lettered accomplishments, including a very on-trend fire beard of might, if I might say so, Jason has positioned himself as a global expert in the field of leadership development for Fortune 500 companies across the globe. Now, he sits in a place of extreme privilege and power that he constantly seeks to flip on its head. If you want to book Jason, he has no interest in being in all-male, all-white spaces. He won't sit on all-male panels, nor headline any events which further promote exclusion or inequality by design, even if it was unintentional. He just won't do it. It's a bold move to make. And I'm known for making bold moves. So in 2018, I developed a value statement that I placed at the top of every single contract negotiation that I have. It's one that reminds the reviewer that my work is unapologetically centered on the dismantlement of systemic racism, the elimination of the white wealth gap, and other modes of global oppression. If I'm being compensated for my appearance in a particular event, I require that all other marginalized persons who are also on the roster are paid for their labor. I regularly turn down media interviews to promote and refer other persons of color to share their expertise and stories. I regularly cede power to try to promote real collaboration with people who are not at the table, but absolutely should be. So like Frances, Jason, and Regina, I proudly declare that if you want my talents, my services, and my contributions to your work, you must first work to change for the better. Now, Jason and Frances, both as white persons of power and privilege, They're showing us examples of what white allyship can look like in practical terms. Now, as women of color, neither Regina nor I have to do this work, but we feel that we must, because the only way to dismantle hegemony is through our resistance. And if one of us is not free, then none of us are free. So, before we pat ourselves on the back for this work that we're doing, I want to let you all know that allyship in itself is not enough. In fact, none of these actual steps are enough. The work is complex, it is difficult, and there is so much more that needs to be done. The most important piece that I've learned from thinking about how to utilize an inclusion rider is something that I've seen in practice right here in the state of Vermont. The Burlington, Vermont-based Peace and Justice Center has very specific rules and strictures that they use to try to help promote greater equity in their work. They will not engage a marginalized person in anything that they do, be it a consultative conversation, on a phone call, or a keynote address without compensating them for their time and their expertise. They have minimum requirements that look for a majority of persons of color sitting on their board of directors, and they have non-negotiable standards of equity that they require in any training that's done under their umbrella. This can be done, and it should be done. Looks like they had some people of color scheduled as speakers. They're celebrities, mind you, but there's at least some names that I recognize. We definitely have work to do, but there's some diversity in the room. We looked at our numbers, and our program enrollment is proportional to the racial makeup of our state. Well, we're mostly a white community, so I wouldn't really expect a lot of diversity in our workforce. Each of these are real statements that I've heard from white leaders in their positions of power when talking about diversity. And each statement carries a sort of resignation that belies their core beliefs that hunger for real diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's centered on a resignation that any sorts of gains are better than nothing. But as someone who has personally sacrificed, risked, and pressed much to break down boundaries, I cannot rest easy in celebration over small changes or mediocrity. Understand that if we are to create a vision of what this diverse world looks like, it must be radical or it will fail. This vision must demand excellence. This is what we know. Key research has shown that diversity is one of the key drivers for being able to show sales revenue, as well as fostering unprecedented innovation. But a lack of diversity, and especially in positions of leadership, can result in really bad decisions that may ultimately hurt your brand and create a hostile work environment. This is what we also know. The rise of hatred, bias, violence, and terrorism against our fellow brothers and sisters across the globe presses us to act now. The world cannot wait or placate sensitivities that might scare you from doing this work. It must be done for a just world. So here are 3 things that you can do to try to shift this tide. Think about the places and spaces that you're going to be going into, the conferences, the summits, the events that you will be a part of, you may be speaking at, you may be sponsoring. Think of them in the next 12 months. Contact the organizers and ask them for their equity policy. You may find that they may not have one, but they may never create one if you don't initiate it. Ask them to make their policies public. It's truly a point of celebration. Number 2, again, think about the spaces and places where you reside. Are there marginalized folks there? And if they are not, invite them in as peers. And if for some reason you should find that there's no room at the table, then give up your seat for someone else to be there. Seriously, ask yourself, do I have to be here? You may be surprised to find that the answer is no, and that there are other thought leaders and subject matter experts who could contribute greatly and enrich in that conversation. Number 3, Develop your own inclusion rider. It could be for yourself personally, or it could be for your organization or business. Make it bold. Have it hold the vision of what you want to see in the world. Don't shy from this work. Understand that this must be done. This must be done. Do it now because we need it. Do it now because the world cannot wait. And as Aboriginal elder and activist Lila Watson once said, if you have come here to help me, then you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. So please, get to work. Thank you.